So you're about to start learning a new language. Congratulations! It's an exciting time, but maybe also a bit overwhelming. Where do you even begin? Do you cram vocabulary lists, obsess over grammar, or start watching a TV show and hope for the best? Well, today I'm going to show you the best first step to learning a language, whether it's your first new language or your 10th. More importantly, I'm going to show you how to stick with it. And to make it really easy to remember, I'm going to be sharing my blend method, a simple research-backed way to start any language with confidence. If we've not met, I'm Mark Pendleton. I'm the founder of Coffee Break Languages. I've taught hundreds of thousands of language learners like you, and I've learned around 10 languages myself. On this channel, we discuss language learning and how you can achieve your goals and become a better speaker of whichever language you're learning. Most people take one of 4 approaches when they start a new language. I wonder if you recognise any of these. The vocab order. You focus on words, working your way through a list, you start memorising, and you feel great about learning a new language until you realise that you can't actually use any of the words in conversation. The problem is, learning words in isolation doesn't help you to communicate. In fact, there's scientific evidence to prove that we forget words we learn in a matter of hours if we don't use them in context. So rather than memorising vocabulary lists, it's better to learn words in context through simple phrases and real conversations. Or perhaps you're a grammar guru. Perhaps you focus on sentence structure and verb conjugations because you like to know how the language works from the very beginning. But too much too soon can make you feel like you're studying maths rather than a language. I think it's better to start to recognise patterns and structures naturally at this early stage. Maybe you're an immersion enthusiast. You think, I'll just watch Netflix in my target language and I'll understand everything just from what's happening on screen. While getting used to the sounds of the language is really important, and we'll come back to this later, there's a danger that your brain will just treat it like white noise if this is all you do. According to linguist Stephen Krashen, the best way to learn is by comprehensible input. And that's language which is just above your level, not completely overwhelming. So why not start with graded content like slow conversations or a simple podcast like our Coffee Break series? That way you're building your knowledge in a manageable way. It's possible that you fall into the category of the over-enthusiastic speaker. You decide the best way to learn is to start speaking immediately, and that's great. You can often make yourself understood with a few words, and getting over any nervousness early in the process is always a good thing. However, if you end up stringing words together that don't quite make sense, this can lead to frustration instead of progress. Again, think about how babies learn. They listen for months before saying their first words. Now, I'm not suggesting you don't speak for months, but I believe there's a benefit in listening carefully to absorb the patterns in the pronunciation first, and then start speaking when your foundation is stronger. Do any of these sound like you? Have you ever started learning a language and realised it wasn't working the way you expected? Let me know in the comments. If you want to start a language effectively, you need to blend it into your life. Let me break it down for you. B stands for build your foundation. I think so many people miss this step, but building a foundation is crucial to success. Before you even open a book or start listening to a podcast, take a moment to get into the right mindset. Ask yourself, why do I want to learn this language? By finding your why, your motivation will be reinforced. Here's a tip: set up a dedicated space or a time for learning. This makes it a habit, not a chore. Studies in environmental psychology show that we're more consistent when we have a clear routine. L stands for listen first. Rather than diving straight into speaking, immerse yourself in the sounds of the language. Studies in second language acquisition show that listening helps you absorb pronunciation and patterns naturally, making speaking easier. The great thing about this is that you can do it anytime, even when you're not in your learning session. Listen to music, podcasts, or simple dialogues. This builds comprehension naturally, and it helps you tune into the rhythm and the tone of the language, preparing your brain for speaking. E stands for embrace mistakes. There is nothing surer than the fact that you're going to make mistakes, and that's a great thing. Every mistake is a step towards improvement. There's a lovely Italian expression, one of my favourite sayings, sbagliando si impara. It means that by making mistakes, you learn. I have to admit to being a bit of a perfectionist, and this sometimes holds me back when I'm speaking in German. Ich weiß, dass ich viele Fehler mache, besonders bei der deutschen Grammatik, weil sie sehr schwierig ist. But I should not let that stop me from speaking. Be brave, take risks, and don't hold back because you're scared of making a mistake. Honestly, some of my best language learning moments have come from making a ridiculous mistake and realising I'll never forget that word now. But that's for another video. Let's continue with blend. N stands for notice patterns. It may be tempting to count the number of words you're learning or rack up your Duolingo streak, but I'd recommend that you focus more on chunks of language and pay attention to the patterns that are used repeatedly. Let's take an example. Imagine you're learning to introduce people in French. You learn, this is my sister. Ça, c'est ma sœur. This is my mother. Ça, c'est ma mère. But when you come to learn, this is my brother. Ça, c'est mon frère. The pattern changes. Why? Well, it's because sœur and mère are feminine, and we use the word ma to mean my for feminine nouns. But frère is a masculine word, so the word for my changes to mon. And this pattern can be reapplied to other situations. Before you know it, you're assimilating grammatical rules in your head simply by noticing these patterns. Okay, so we're looking at blend, B-L-E-N-D, and D stands for do it daily. It can be hard to fit learning into daily life, but a little progress every day beats cramming once a week. And this is what our learners in the Coffee Break Club have found. By using a daily video lesson on our app, it makes it so much easier to build consistency without feeling overwhelmed. When you're in the early stages of learning a new language, it's all the more important. Research in neuroscience suggests that consistent daily learning helps strengthen the neural connections in the brain, making it easier to recall and use new information over time. So you can therefore build consistency with small, manageable learning moments that blend into your life. This theory is all very well, but what does this look like in real life? So you've made the decision, you're starting to learn a new language. What does your first week look like? Well, days 1 and 2, this is when you get comfortable, you set up your space, you find your why and plan to listen to some music or a podcast in the language while you're out for a walk or traveling to work. Even if you don't understand everything, this will help you get used to the sounds. Then set aside some time to do a lesson in your book or watch a video on YouTube and pick up your first phrases in the language. In days 3 and 4, you can engage with the language, write down some of the phrases that you're learning and listen to how they sound in different contexts. Experiment with mimicking the pronunciation, but remember, embrace your mistakes and enjoy the process. On days 5 and 6, you'll start to notice patterns in the words and phrases you're learning. Recognise how words fit together and focus on key phrases that are repeated often in the material you're using. Keep your mind open. As you learn more, your understanding will increase, and with more input, you'll be able to build on what you already know. Day 7, continue your daily progress. Keep incorporating what you've learned into real or imaginary dialogues. I like having conversations with myself where I play both parts. For example, recreating a dialogue from our Coffee Break Japanese podcast while I'm out for a walk.
元気ですか?
Hi, genki desu.
ありがとう.
Day 7 is also the ideal day to do some journaling and reflect on what you've learned so far. So let's recap. Blend stands for build your foundation, listen first, embrace mistakes, notice patterns, and do it daily. If you follow this, you'll build a strong foundation that makes learning easier and more enjoyable. Okay, now you have the perfect way to blend language learning into your life. What about sticking with it? That's where getting into a routine really helps. And it just so happens I have a video all about that. You can check it out here. Thanks for watching.